Mihi tēnei kia koutou ko tā mai runga tēnei waka o tātou ko te whānau ora nō reira tēnā koutou. Ko wai mātou, he uri mātou no te waipauna ko kaitau kia te mamo I waita rapu wainga iwi. He uri o nō mātou no te tairawhiti ko ronga mai wahine, ko rākaupāka, ko Ngāti Kōnohi, ko Ngāti Grau. Nō reira, tēnā koutou. We're actually embarking on quite an ambitious journey. We're looking at pulling together a 25-year plan for us and our children after us, for our mokopuna, leading into the future. 2037 is the year we're looking out to, or mid 21st. Yep. And for a start, we even thought we were crazy, but now we're settling into the idea of it. We're learning how to take that seriously. We're starting small, even though we're looking big, and the scope is really big of what we're thinking about. We're starting small in terms of numbers and kind of concentrating on a section of a big whānau, but we're just concentrating on a small group of us and we don't mean it to be exclusive. It's just that we can't manage big. We can only think small, even though we're thinking a long way out. And one of the things we've learnt about ourselves is that we're really busy, which is why we haven't got to thinking about this before. We've got busy lives and we're trying to work, pay bills and do all those things like everybody else. We had a go at this about 10 years ago. We had an opportunity as we saw it, but it was an opportunity to fulfil a hunger and a dissatisfaction that we had, in that we were separated from our land, from our place that we called home, and for a whole range of reasons we had shifted into the city and became urban dwellers, and we have been now for 50 odd years. So we're into our third generation of urban dwellers, and so our kids are growing up in a whole different setting to what we grew up as children, growing up in the country on land that we understood to have been ours, that we had ancestral ties into. It had a convoluted history in terms of it being an original parside of our tupuna, then being turned into farmland for all the settler people that came into the area, and then being changed in terms of from farmer to farmer to farmer, and leases and a whole range of kind of land management things that weren't of our making. But what we knew was that was our home. But we went into cities for education, and also we set up our lives as parents and now grandparents. So, but our yearning for that other life has been really strong, and at some stage we posed the question to ourselves, what are we going to do about this? Is there something we can do? What? And I'm not sure how we found out about something called the Whānau Trust, and we looked at this idea and we thought maybe that's the way we can do this. We can create a Whānau Trust. We can apply for what's known as an occupation order, and we can, as much as said this morning, use the Māori Land Court to do that. We felt like we were in charge of the journey ourselves, and actually that the Māori Land Court was our servant, and we tried to keep it that way, and for the most part we managed to do that, and we come out the other side of that journey with a Whānau Trust, Mātai Tū Kaipo Whānau Trust, with a occupation order, which allowed us to go back to the home that was still standing. Pretty derelict it was, but we went about the business of repairing it and refreshing it and improving it. And because we were able to kind of square off a part of the land around the house, we now have a place where we can take our placenta. So that in itself is an outcome that we actually hadn't considered, when we first went into this, but it was the idea that grew as we were going along, as we thought, gee, it's not just a house, it's actually, we can make this our home again, and we can do things with it that we actually didn't do in the past, because we didn't bury our placentas. I don't know why we didn't, but we didn't. But now we can. So that's a regular ritual that we are now practicing as our babies are being born. So in terms, so that was our our dummy run in how to get together as a whānau and bring ourselves together from all parts of the world, because we're in Australia, from Perth to Sydney to the Gold Coast. We're in the far north from Whangarei to Auckland, and we're in the south from Christchurch to Invercargill. So we're one of those whānaus that have to do our planning by Skype, by email, by text and by phone calls, because the opportunity for us all to be in the same room together at the one time is very rare. Even Tangi can't pull us together like that sometimes. So we've had to rely on technologies of the age, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. It's very useful, in fact. And so that's what we've done. We call it virtual hui. And so that's how we've pulled together our whānau plan that we're working on now. It's a work in progress. We've been on it for about 18 months, and it's nowhere near finished. In fact, the more we think through, the bigger it gets, and the more unfinished it looks, and the more unfinished it feels, and the ideas just keep growing and growing. And one of the things we're realising is that even though we do feel in charge of the process, we haven't got all the ideas, we haven't got all the answers. We need outside influence, we need outside ideas, people coming from outside to come in and cordial with us and give us more inspiration, which is where whānau order comes in, of course, because we are inspired by the whānau order kaupapa. We love hearing tariana talk, we love hearing matua talk, we love hearing other whānau talk, and it motivates us, and it's one of the things we need because we're so dispersed around, well, not around the world, just around the southern part of the Pacific. Because we're so dispersed, we need somebody saying, hey, where did we get to? What was the last thing we said we were going to do, and who was going to do it? By when? And so those are the things we have to keep checking ourselves about to make sure that, it's not, it kind of goes in the ebbs and flows of, well, not interest, but activity. So in terms of outcomes for us, after 50 years of being urban dwellers in different parts of the world, we have become disconnected, we have become disengaged from each other, we lose track of where the mokos are and what they're doing, we don't know who's studying what. One of the big aids for us has been Facebook. And in terms of our kōrero, we're thinking that we want to keep regrouping, we want to keep reconnecting, and we want to keep engaged with this kaupapa whānau order. We want to reconnect with each other, with our whenua, and with other taonga. We want to bring some of those old ways forward that some of us remember of our old people. My mama is still alive, she's 79, and she is like the pivot between the old and the new, between the old ways and what we're all doing today. We want to be fully in the 20th century, but we want to bring that old stuff forward, and to be fearless about that, and not to be whakamā about any of that. We want to create a future for our mokopuna. We do see that it's about opportunity, and we want to make the best that we can out of that. So we had that trial run, and we actually used the path. I don't know if I told you that path run. We used the path to plan our way through the building the Whānau Trust and the occupation order. So there's our charts around the wall of the house. So in our discussion so far for our Whānau order plan, these are the things that we say are important to us. Whakawhanaungatanga, of course, most important, and it being the hinge on which everything else falls. So we've got ideas about all these things, about where we'd like to see ourselves in 2037. Somebody's mentioned this morning the financial independent thing. We'd like to think that we will have created ourselves some kind of financial independence by then for our mokopuna, and that we will have done the work in our generation so that they will reap the benefits in their time. We like the idea of some kind of whānau model that doesn't that's not so much focused on whānau individuals, but are focused on whānau as a whānau. Asking a trust, or to other similar models that are like that, but that's not what we want. That's not what it's talking. They're not talking about what we want. So we don't know where to find these people, but we'll keep looking. We want them to commit to us. So if you know of anybody who has the capability to be able to help us build some kind of financial independence program that will see us go from where we are today, which is basically living hand to mouth. We carry debt, we have trouble with credit, we're not financially literate as we could be. We're taking advantage of the kind of things that are being put in front of us, for instance, like our Whaidawa program through our Naitahu distribution mechanisms, our long-term savings schemes. So we're making sure that we're taking advantage of those kind of things. And while it can provide us with some kind of financial independence, it's not providing us with all, and we don't expect it to. In terms of whenua, for instance, and this morning I heard Martha talking about how some whānau don't know where their land is, or what it is, or how it came to be, or where it came from, or what it's doing, or how it's being managed. We're like that too. We don't know the all of where we are shareholders in. We have some experience in that though, because when we built our Whānau Trust and did our occupation order, we had 122 other owners that we had to consult with, and that took 2 years to do that, and half of them we couldn't find anyway. And we're talking in the third person them. They're actually our whānau, but we don't even know them. They're part of our hapu, and we don't even know them. And that in itself is kind of unacceptable. But they don't know us either. So there's another kind of mission to get onto. Whakapapa. I've got all the whakapapa books in my home. that's not a bad thing, except when we have earthquakes and we get liquefaction through the garage where all the books are. And one of the things we're looking at doing is building a Whānau website, getting all our whakapapa papers and certificates and info somehow digitised, put in a cloud in the sky, so that our whānau members can hook into it from wherever they are. And yeah, so safety and storage is really important to us. Contribution to hapu. Through our whakapapa, we actually whakapapa into 11 of 18 of our naitahu rūnanga, but we're busy enough without being busy in 11 rūnanga as well, so we choose the primary rūnanga at Moiraki and North Otago to be active in, and all we can do with the other 10 is be available by email or get minutes of meetings and read Pānui rūnanga and be as up to date as possible as to what our whanaunga are doing in those other rūnanga. But it's just impossible to be involved in all 11. As I speak, our whānau iwi started about half an hour ago, the pōwhiri. So the rest of my whānau are there and doing our thing. So in terms of preparedness, one of the things that we found in living in earthquake land is, and in terms of whānau ora, is that it's important to stay alive. If we're going to do this. And to take that seriously, to be well prepared for possibilities of future earthquakes, to have 3-week water supply, 3-week kai supply, to have enough first aid stuff to go around, to have batteries for the torches and radios, and if you're going to dip into them for the remote, to replace them. And to know where your insurance papers are, where your will is, if you've got one, where your passports are, and to have, we now have go bags that are ready should we not be able to stay in our house, should we have another major earthquake, where we just pick them up from beside the back door, and in it will be everything we need for a couple of days, 2 or 3 days. So just organising ourselves in all our separate households to make sure that we are as ready as possible, and to know where we're going to meet up and how, should we have to. Is there a ding ding yet? We're a work in progress. We're nowhere near finished. We start putting stuff on paper and we think, oh yeah, 16 pages is good, that's enough. And then we'll have another hui by Skype, and the 16 pages can grow to 25 just like that. And so we're not sure when enough is enough, but that's okay. So that's just us. We don't think we're anything out of the ordinary. We're just a whānau like you are. We're as magnificent as you are. And we're actually enjoying this ride, which surprises us really, because we're surprised that in taking ourselves this seriously, that it can be enjoyable. It's frustrating as well, because we don't all agree on the same thing, but that's all part of the process. And like I heard this morning, the thing about decision making, I don't know that we've got a decision making model. It might be just who shouts the loudest. It might be just who talks the most. It might be who sounds convincing on the day. It might not sound as convincing the next day when somebody else comes up with a better idea. So So we're building whānau models of all sorts of things as we're going along. How we're going to measure ourselves? We haven't had too much discussion about that. But I guess we'll know if we've achieved something. Like walking out of the mighty land court going, yay! She said yes. Yeah, so that's us.